Well, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Tech Planet. Today we're going to be unboxing and propagating a Mint Monstera. Let's check it out. Alright, so I always get a lot of questions on how to root these variegated monsteras that you get through the mail. So this is finally the first opportunity that I will have to be able to do this and to show you what I do. This plant was sent to me by a friend, and I'm really just babysitting this one and getting it to root and grow until they can come pick it up. So it's quite an interesting scenario. But either way, they trusted me to try and root this thing, so we will give it a shot. I was a little nervous about having this plant shipped to me just because I have never rooted any sort of variegated monstera, and it was the middle of summer, so I was a little nervous the heat might get it. But you can see it was packaged really well, and it came out almost perfect. I'd honestly never seen a big cutting like this shipped so well. I mean, the roots were perfect. There was nothing wrong. None of them were broken. The leaves weren't even broken. They were like rolled up so perfectly in that box. And they even had like a little guttation or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's where like water comes out of the leaf. So I think it was preserved perfectly in this box. But yeah, looking up close on the cut end, you can see this one is quite dry. So usually when I'm rooting my monsteras, I just chop them and put them right in the medium or in the water, and they do just fine. So this time this one's actually been calloused. I know a lot of people ask about whether you should callus or not your cuttings, and this will be the first time I've actually seen one callus, and I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm not worried about it because usually these all root pretty well, but you'll be able to find out through this video. This cutting has a lot of awesome variegation that I think is going to show in that growth point. You can see it really intersects all of that, so I'm really excited to see how it's going to look. But let's get this thing going and rooting so we can actually see what happens in the future. Since a lot of my viewers are from all over the place, it's hard to get certain materials for them. We're going to keep it really simple, and this is how I usually like to root a lot of my stuff, and it is just a giant jar with water in it. This one's going to be a giant kimchi jar. Honestly, they're awesome. They're huge. And if you eat a lot of kimchi, it's just a great way to get it, and you get a cool glass jar at the end. So that's what we'll be using. And then I'm just going to fill it with some water up to about the top of the stump, if that makes any sense. I'm not going to like bury it super deep. Wider opening is probably better. You get a lot more oxygen exchange. And that's pretty much it. I'm just going to fill the water up high enough to cover the roots and just a little bit of that other end. And that's it. And we're just going to put it under like really good grow light. I almost never show how I do it, but it's really important. So you can see here that I have this really under a lot of strong grow lights. There's 3 total, and it's getting a ton of light, and that is honestly the key to all my propagations, is they all get a lot of light. So it's just sitting here in a jar of water getting a ton of light. And we can take a look now because it's been about 8 days since I put it in that jar, and we'll just see how it's doing. When I take it out of the jar and look a little closer, you'll see that a lot of stuff is pretty brown. I do have the exposure up pretty high, so it looks a little less brown and dark than it actually is, but a lot of the stuff looks almost black or brown, and I know a lot of people start to freak out at this point. Like as soon as they see brown or black, they're like start to lose their minds, and that's when they start to make the fatal mistake of switching different mediums and going crazy. But with this one, I'm just going to leave it be. I have confidence that the light and the plant will do what it needs to do and just get through this. Like none of this is very scary for me to see. I know it like throws off alarms for a lot of people, but this small amount is nothing to worry about. And you'll see in the future as we let this sit under these grow lights for a little bit longer. Alright, we are at the 15-day mark since I cut it, and we are going to take a closer look and see how it's fared. I know we saw it was starting to turn brown and black, but on closer inspection, things are looking fantastic. You can still see a lot of the brown and black coloring on both the cuttings and the roots, but again, it's nothing to worry about, and it's really pretty typical. I think a lot of people see this, they freak out, and they just keep changing mediums until they eventually kill their own plant just because they keep like switching and just disturbing it. If you just leave it be, it really does fine. You can see all the brown and scary parts have fresh roots coming out of it because this is just what they do. It's nothing to panic about. So things are doing just fine in this jar of water, and you can see there is tons of healthy roots literally everywhere. I think the real key to propagating anything, especially the variegation, is a lot of light. When there's variegated leaves, they really don't make as much energy for the plant as a normally full green leaf would because they're lacking a lot of chlorophyll. So you just got to ramp up that light. I promise you, if you give any cutting a lot of light, you will probably have success unless your water parameters are way out of whack. I will make some follow-up videos on this, like once it gets a little bigger, then I'm going to repot it, and we can kind of follow this along, just because, again, a lot of people see me propagate the green ones, and they always ask me about the variegated ones and if there's really any difference, but I've water propagated both now, and you can see water just works. Well, guys, I hope that really clears it up for you. I think my best advice I could give you before you even attempt any sort of variegated monstera is buy a regular green monstera and test the water propagation method first. there's a good chance that you could have really bad pH values with your tap water or whatever water you're using, and that could really cause problems in your attempt to propagate any sort of expensive variegated Monstera. So I would definitely recommend you take first a green one and just make sure the water works for you. Or you can do pH testing and check if your water is in the proper range for Monstera. But there's many other parameters in water that can cause issues. But if you can propagate a green one in water, as long as you give it tons of light, I promise you, you can also do the variegated ones. So I hope this video clears everything up and sort of removes that fear of like brown. It seems like a lot of people, when they see brown, they really start to panic and they start moving. I see it all the time on Facebook, just moving from substrate to substrate to substrate. And I think when you do that, you really like kind of not confuse the roots, but you set them back and you cause problems that eventually do actually lead to root rot, like damaging roots and just things like that. So I definitely, if you're going to buy, well, they're not that expensive anymore, but if you're going to buy an expensive Monstera, first try the green method. If it works, then go on and do it with the expensive ones. I hope, again, this video cleared things up. It was a little scary for me too, because obviously I've never done one of these more variegated ones, but it worked out. So I hope that helps. And as always, may your plants go strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.